What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with reactions to the classics, and today we got a fun one, a full album reaction to Blur's self-titled album. This is brought to us by our patron and longtime friend and supporter of the channel, B-Mac. Thank you, B-Mac, for pushing us down this Blur road. Before we get started, guys, just a little bit quick housekeeping. Give this a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button below. If you'd like to support us on Patreon, the patrons make this thing run. Check out our Patreon link below. Song reactions, album reactions, top 10s, you name it. We do a lot of stuff for our patrons. And follow us on social media, Facebook group below, and the Twitch link. Live streams every Wednesday and Friday. Okay, let's dive into this thing. I don't know a lot about Blur. We have up on the channel some song battles, some song reactions from some quote Brit pop. We also have the iconic Oasis What's a Story Morning Glory up, and it is done quite well. But I need to dive into some Blur, and B-Mac is allowing me to do so. So let's get into this album. It is the fifth studio album released in February of 1997. It received generally positive reviews from critics in the US, but the UK reviews were mixed. I'll get to why in just a second. But at the 1998 NME Awards, it received a nomination for Best Album. It lost to Radiohead's OK Computer, a phenomenal album. That review is also up on the channel. Go check that one out, but watch this one first. NME ranked at 137 in its list of 500 greatest albums of all time. So high praise. So let's get into a little background, how this came about, and then we'll dive in and check this thing out. Blur had previously been broadly critical of American popular culture. Their previous albums have become associated with the Britpop movement, particularly Park Life, which had helped them become one of Britain's leading pop acts. After their previous album to this, because this is their fifth album, as I said, The Great Escape, the band faced media backlash and relationships between the members became pretty strained. Under suggestion of the band's guitarist Graham Coxon, the band underwent a stylistic change, and they were influenced, ironically enough, by some American indie bands, and they mentioned Pavement in particular, a fantastic group. Recording took place in London and Iceland. Drummer Dave Rowntree described the music on the album as being more aggressive and emotional than their previous work. The producer of this thing, Stephen Street, claimed that lead singer-songwriter Damon Albarn had started writing more about personal experiences, while Coxon revealed that listening to his lyrics, it was clear to him that he, quote, obviously gone off his head a bit more. So writing from the personal standpoint always makes things more powerful. However, Blur's label, EMI, was really worried about the stylistic change, and it would alienate the fans, and it would flop. But the lead single, which we'll get to in a minute, it's the first single on the album, Beetlebum, went to #1. So did this album, so the record execs went, yeah, that's great. It also reached the top 20 in 6 other countries, and then the second single, Song 2, which is also the second song on the album, which I'll get to in a little bit, led to this becoming their most successful album in the US. And despite the previous album, The Great Escape, going to #1 on the charts, that album was left in the shadows because of What's a Story Morning Glory by Oasis, which sold 4 times the amount. And that they kind of looked at, Blur kind of became portrayed in the media as an inauthentic middle-class pop band compared to the working class heroes of Oasis. And that made Damon feel, quote, his quote, stupid and confused. Bassist Alex James later summarized, after being the people's hero, Damon was the people's blank, we'll keep it PG-13, for a short period. Basically, he was a loser very publicly, and obviously that's going to affect you. And then apart from a change in the musical style, they changed the way they recorded. It was the first time we sort of jammed, Coxon revealed. We never really jammed before. We've been quite white coaty overall about recording, like in a lab. We actually did our way through playing whatever came to our minds and editing, which was just really exciting. We just played together for 2 weeks in a way we hadn't done since 1991. And that's a lot of times where the magic happens, right? We wanted to purify the sound, to not have anything there not played by us. So I thought that was a really cool thing. And according to producer Stephen Street, Blur decided that commercial pressures and writing hit singles wasn't going to be the main consideration anymore. You see why the record companies got nervous. The mood in the studio was very different to when I first worked with them. In the studio, once we got past those first few days where I felt everyone was treading on eggshells, because remember, they really weren't getting along real well at first. There was a great atmosphere. I think it was because they didn't want to be competing with anyone on this record. They wanted to make a record that would keep the band together. I think that's kind of the key, right? You never end up happy when you're chasing that kind of glory, but when you're doing it just for the love of it, I know it's cliched, guys, but you really do come out with your best material almost every single time, and usually you're happiest doing that. So all the lyrics written by Damon, except for You're So Great, which we'll get into. It's been in the middle of this album, written by Graham Coxon. All music by the guys, except where noted there's one song where some of the music is from someone else. I've never heard this album, and I've never heard any songs on here unless I heard them in a live stream and don't remember it. Before we dive in, the music will not be in this video, but there'll be a link below where you can listen along with me. If you just want to know what I think of the songs, just follow along here. I'm going to have the lyrics up, following along as I always do. I really won't say anything during the reaction so we can enjoy the song, and then I'll talk to you a bit about it after the song. So guys, we'll start off with Beetlebum. The lead single, as I mentioned, it went to #1 in the UK singles, becoming their second #1 hit after Country House. Damon wrote it about his experiences with heroin. It features Beatle-influenced music in a mood that Damon described as sleepy and sexy. Wow, 5-minute track. Let's check it out. Thanks again, B-Mac. All right, Beetlebum, lead single, went to #1. Nice little 1-minute outro there with the instrumentation. Guitar was fantastic throughout and a lot of little effects there at the end. Little controversy on Beetlebum. You know, the definition of it is it's a reference to chasing the beetle, which refers to inhaling the smoke from heated heroin, morphine, or opium on tinfoil. In Damon's case, it would be heroin. But he said he just made the word up, but you know, whatever. But it isn't really about the lyrics. I mean, it is kind of a dreamy little lyricism. It is talking about the drugs, the heroin, the way it makes you feel, the kind of how it draws you to it. But it is definitely more of an atmosphere song, which you expect in this genre at times. It's really pleasant on the instrumentation side of it. So I really did enjoy that one. Now we're up to song 2, often mistakenly called Woohoo. This went to 2 in the UK, 4 in Australia, 6 on the US Billboard alternative charts. It's also 2 minutes and 2 seconds long, and it has 2 verses. There's a lot of twos and nice little stories behind this one. At the 97 MTV Music Awards, it was nominated for Best Group Video. At the 98 Brit Awards, it was nominated for Best British Single and Best British Video. In 1998, BBC Radio 1 listeners voted it the 15th best song of all time, and NME placed it as the 79th best track of the past 15 years. Now, according to Graham Coxon, it was intended to be a joke on the record company. Damon had recorded an acoustic demo of the song, which was slower, but featured the song's descriptive woohoo chorus in the whistle form. Graham then suggested that they pump up the speed and perform the song loudly, with Graham deliberately seeking out a kind of amateurish guitar sound. From there, Graham told Damon to tell the record company they wanted to release it as a single just to kind of mess with their minds, right? He never intended to do that. To their surprise, the record executive said, yeah, let's do it. When asked if he ever thought it was going to be a hit, Graham's like, no, we thought it was way too extreme. So very interesting story. Let's get to song 2. Song 2, which Spotify has let us down. What are you doing, Spotify? It has it listed at 201. It's supposed to be 202. The second this hit, if you were watching live along, you saw my eyes. I know exactly what this song was. Didn't know that's what it was called. It's in tons of like movies and TV shows. I'm sure I've heard the whole song too, but not that often. But that woohoo. There's nothing to break down on this song. You guys know if you watch this channel, I like to break down. Instrumentation was nice. I like to break that down. I like to break down the lyrics. Of course, this song is just, it's all about the woohoo and just the hard guitar and drumming right there. It just sticks in your head, man. It's an earworm that doesn't go away. Not much to say about it. Brilliant because, like I said, it's instantly recognizable. Let's go to the next track. Country Sad Ballad Man, and that's what it's about. The research I found, Damon attempts to parody a country ballad. Oh boy. As the title suggests, he plays with alternating pitches and contrasting backing vocals over classic country rock rhythms, though said rhythms are slightly grungier in keeping with the overall theme of what Blur is about. So going from that last song to this ought to be interesting. I'm not a huge fan of country music. I do like the classics. I like Cash, Willie, that kind of stuff. Definitely don't like the newer stuff. So this ought to be a fun one. Country Sad Ballad Man. I don't think there's much country in this. There's a little bit of guitar in there a couple times. Otherwise, I mean, the guitar in this is fantastic. It's definitely grungier and kind of harder hitting. A lot of great guitar tone, especially that last minute. The lyrics, once again, not a whole lot to it. The chorus, VIP 223. The notes I was reading here said it could refer to the organs he's played throughout his careers. And then I have my chances. They had me. Now I stay up nights, watch TV. I'm country sad. I'm a ballad man. Interesting subject, I guess you would say, and pretty good. Now we're going to get on to song number 4. And it's called MOR. You could call it More. Song 4, More, but MOR stands for Middle of the Road. Nice little story on this one. It's the only track that's not just attributed to Blur. It's actually attributed to them and the great David Bowie and Brian Eno. Went to 15 in the UK. The song's chord progression was borrowed from Bowie's Boys Keep Swinging and Fantastic Voyage. On the album, Bowie and collaborator Brian Eno carried out a musical experiment in which multiple songs were written with the same chord progression, of which Boys Keep Swinging and Fantastic Voyage were the two that surfaced. MOR is both a continuation of and tribute to that experiment, as its chorus also lists the melody and call and response vocals from Boys Keep Swinging. Bowie and Eno both received credit for MOR, wait for it, after legal intervention. So, don't know that whole story. It didn't really dive in a whole lot to find it, just because sometimes those things just get ugly, and I'd just rather not know. They're credited now. That's all that matters. We're already to track 4. Let's check out MOR. Wow, MOR, my favorite track so far. I'm just going to say it. Lyrically, Damon's vocal delivery is a little bit different. I mentioned it at the start of the guitar work is fantastic. Some bass comes through there. Drumming is great. Just really, really tight track. The chorus, here comes a low. And then you've got this call and response. You can barely hear the response. I'm a boy and you're a girl. Here comes a high. Here comes everything. Here it comes. You, me, and we'll work it out. They're going to be together, man. Here comes a low. I'm a boy and you're a girl. Here comes a high. The only ones in the world. Here comes everything, like monkeys out in space. Here it comes. We are members of the human race. And they just kind of play that out. Just fantastic. Fantastic track that I quite enjoyed. Now we'll move on to On Your Own. It was a single that went to 5 in the UK. Although it wasn't released exclusively under the name, Damon has since referred to the song as one of the first ever Gorillaz tunes, because if you didn't know, Damon Albarn is one part of Gorillaz. So that makes me think this one might sound even a little bit different. On Your Own. On Your Own. Graham just crushes the guitar in this song. I can see why Damon said this is one of the first Gorillaz songs ever. From the start and the outro, I can see that there. But in the middle, I don't know. The chorus is very catchy. The lyrics are somewhat nonsensical, as I mentioned at the start. Now, I got a funny feeling in verse 1, which I bought mail order from a man in a teepee in California. You know, he's getting a little... probably getting a little stuff to little illegal substance. Verse 2, well, we all go happy day glow in the discos, the sound of magic music in our brains. Someone stumbles to the bathroom with the whores, because they're doing drugs in the club bathrooms, which, boys and girls, it happens. Says, Lord, give me time, for I've jumped into space. I'm in outer space, so I don't know if what they saw or they're actually doing the drugs too, and they're on a trip. But the chorus of Take Me Home, Don't Leave Me Alone, I'm not that good, but I'm not that bad. No psycho killer, hooligan gorilla, little drop of the Gorillaz, I don't know. I dreamed a riot, oh, you should try it. I'll eat parole, get gold card soul. Okay, Damon, my joy of life is on a roll. We'll all be the same in the end, because then you're on your own. And then this little bridge in there, la, 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 just a nicely constructed song, whether you think the lyrics mean anything or not. I really enjoyed that one. This album is actually getting better and better for me, and I thought it started out quite well. So that was a really good offering. And now we're going to move on to Theme from Retro, which when I try to look at the lyrics, says it's basically just an instrumental with some a few little lyrics that you can't understand. So let's check this one out. Theme from Retro, and I can see a little bit of the indistinctive chatter there. If you watch this channel all the time, you know I'm an honest guy. I don't pull any punches. I couldn't stand that. I was just waiting for it to end. I'm sure it has some artistic meaning for being in the middle. Maybe you love it. Maybe you love the uniqueness of it or the instrumentation. But I'm going to tell you what, we're in the heart, it's 1997, of bloated albums. This is 14 songs, 57 minutes. They could have saved me those 3 minutes and 37 seconds. Not a fan. Let's move on to song number 7, You're So Great. This is the one, it's the first Blur song written and sang by Graham Coxon. It shares some themes with Coffee and Tea, a song on Blur's following album that was also sung by Graham. They're both ambiguously referencing love, but it's unknown whether it's an interpersonal romantic love or a love of alcohol, because at the time, Graham was an alcoholic. Let's check this one out. You're So Great. As you would expect when a guitarist writes a song, very good guitar work. And Graham's the only one credited officially on the song for guitar, so I'm assuming he played the acoustic and went back later and overdubbed the electric part. Staticky, to start with, a little staticky towards the end, the mixing on it purposefully sounded almost like I was turning on my AM radio back in the 70s. Little vocal treatment on him. Thought it was nice. Starts out sad, drunk, and poorly, sleeping really late. So this is going to evolve, right? This is verse 1. Sad, drunk, and poorly, not feeling so great. Wandering lost in a town full of frowns. Sad, drunk, and poorly, dogs digging up the ground. Then the chorus gets real pleasant, and I feel the light in the night and in the day, and I feel the light when the sky's just mud and gray, and I feel the light when you tell me it's okay because you're so great and I love you. So I think he's going through some stuff with alcohol. Then he's got his girl. That's just what I'm assuming here. But verse 2 changes, right? DT and coffee helps us start the day. DT and coffee, shaking all the way. So he's coming out of being alcohol addicted, right? Having those DTs. The coffee helps to start the day. Then he's going to shake it all the way, because you shake when you're going through alcohol withdrawal. City's alive, a surprise, so am I. So he's still here. DT and coffee, get no sleep today. So in verse 1, slept in really late. Now he's getting no sleep. And then the fantastic chorus. I really did enjoy that one. Quite different and really nice. So that was the halfway point. Now we're going to move on to track number 8, Death of a Party. Couldn't find much research on this one, so let's just jump into it. Death of a Party. I'll start out with a little, I don't want to say criticism, but the last minute outro was just monotonous. It didn't really do anything for me. So once again, I'm going to get back to a 57-minute album. You could have cut that minute off because it didn't really do anything for me to the song. But all that said, nice song. I'll read what it's about, and you can tell once you know what's about this. About going to a party, catching an STD, probably a very dangerous one. I don't know, HIV, AIDS, I don't know. The death of the party came as no surprise. Why did we bother? Should have stayed away. So the verses are pretty heavy in the way he delivers them, but there's a little change in tone in the chorus, and I really enjoyed that. Another night, and I thought, well, go to another party and hang myself gently on the shelf. And then verse 2, the death of the teenager standing on his own. Why did he bother? Should have slept alone. And then the chorus goes on longer. It's just that same chorus, but repeated a few different times. And that's it. I mean, there's just 2 little short verses and the chorus, a short chorus, and then an elongated chorus gives you that 4.5-minute track. But, interesting instrumentally. Now we're going to go on to the next track, Chinese Bombs, which the notes over here tell me it's about the life of Bruce Lee. It's a very short track, as you see below, only 1:24. Let's check it out. Well, I said at the start, it says it's about Bruce Lee. After I looked at the lyrics, obviously, at the end, it's obviously about Bruce Lee. Very different track. First, 25 seconds really is just instrumental buildup, and it's only 1:24, so they go all in. There's a lot of lyrics in this, more than the previous 4.5-minute track. Just talks about Bruce. He's got the touch and he won't live long. He comes from Hong Kong where justice is done. Then the chorus is really delivered. The guitars are distorted and overwhelming the vocal. That's the purpose of the mix, I'm sure. Damon's mixed back in it. You can hear him and you can hear the chorus coming in, but it's not 100% at the forefront where it's totally clear. If you didn't have the lyrics with you, I don't think you could understand everything that was being said, but you tell me because you don't have the lyrics with you and you're listening along. But Chinese Bombs, Millions Jump, Chairman's Junk, USA, Won't somebody sink the place? Got a call to go to Soho, The Dragon, which is Bruce's nickname. There's a movie about him called The Dragon. Said, go, let everyone know that you got the touch. You come from Hong Kong where justice is done and people are strong but you won't live long. And then the chorus repeats, but at the very end, the last two lines, Bruce Lee comes, save the day. Bruce Lee comes the Chinese way. Fun little track, different than anything else on this album so far. Now we're up to track number 10. I'm Just a Killer for Your Love. All right, I'm Just a Killer for Your Love. Just like on the last track, I'm going to complain first, or 2 tracks ago, Death of a Party. A long outro that just slowly fades that gives me nothing, guys. Cut those 45 seconds off for me. But that said, kind of a nonsensical lyrical song, yet it sticks in your head. I'm just a killer for your love. And then the second time it repeats the chorus, they just go on with different vocals, different sounds delivered in different ways. I'm just a killer for your love. Very distorted, very fuzzy guitars, very heavy guitars. I heard a man who had no lungs. He took me in and made me lunch. He told me how I'd lost my friend. He smiled at me, it was the end, and said, I'm just a killer for your love. So I don't think that the lyrics mean just a ton, but it does stick in your head. It is interesting instrumentally, and I did enjoy it. And next up, we have Look Inside America. And I mentioned this at the start, but the band's Britpop era albums have several songs referencing the U.S., namely Miss America and Magic America. While both of those are sarcastic in tone and critical of American values, this song is a tale of Blur finally coming to terms with the country and admitting after all that she's all right. Alex James said via Q Magazine, it was F off Britpop. That's why it had to be included on the album. Look Inside America is exactly what Britpop was urging you not to do. All right, let's check it out. Look Inside America. That one was a nice one, different musically than a lot of the other stuff on here. Still great guitar. Damon's delivery is a little different on this. You can understand a little more. It's mixed to the front. Good morning, lethargy. Drink Pepsi. It's good for energy. The bath's on. Smoke in the bedroom. Sore throat. And on my neck, a nasty bruise. Where it came from? Well, I don't know. We played last night. So he's in America. It was a good show. Got the play out. Second-rate chat show. Guess he probably went on a radio show. It's a nationwide deal, so you got to go. Chuck from the company said it'll be all right. Got an ad on K-Rock, and there's an in-store tonight. So they're in America doing a concert, doing a radio interview. K-Rock is a station in Southern California, and they're in-store tonight, probably promoting an album inside a record store back in the day when you did those things. Pre-chorus, where I build things up, and then I let them go. Got to get timeshare on the radio. That success you got to chase. And then the chorus, look inside America. Now Damon's saying, after speaking out against America in previous albums, she's all right, sitting out the distance, but I'm not trying to make her mine. He respects it, America for what it is, but he doesn't really care to be here. He'd rather be in England. I wonder what he'd think in 2021 with everything that's happened here in America. Where the TV says it's all right because everybody's hung up on something or another. Verse 2, stepping off in 20, so the driver says I should sleep tonight, but I think I'll watch videos instead. Annie Hall, a movie. Leaves New York and the Impress Rewind, and Woody Allen, who wrote it, gets her back again. And the whole world could pass through me, but I don't know if it means much to me. So I could have everything in this world, everything's possible. I don't know that I even really care. And he just kind of repeats the chorus again. So a nice one, a really nice one, and something different, which is good on an album that has 14 tracks. Now we're already up to song number 12, Strange News from Another Star. This was based or named after a book written by Herman Hesse. Strange News from Another Star. Started out instrumentally, a little hard, and then it dialed back when the lyrics came in. I really enjoyed that part of it. All I want to be is washed out by the sea. No Death Star over me. A little Star Wars stuff. Won't give me any peace. All I want is light relief. Put the crazies on the street. Give them guns and feed them meat. They'll shoot the Death Star down, dig a hole, and put it down 1,000 miles underground. Back in 1997, but you could draw some parallels to nowadays and where I live. Chorus, they say it's no game. There's strange news from another star. I'm lost. There's strange news from another star. Another planet or another country that seems like another planet, because I kind of think we kind of have that situation nowadays. So I enjoy the song. Not exactly sure what it's about. Maybe just kind of an abstract, another planet or another country that seems far out, or your world that you're walking around that all of a sudden has changed so much, like I don't even recognize this place. That's kind of how I feel a year into COVID and the political situations here in America. It almost seems like a different place I never imagined living in. Let's move on to the next to the last track, and no pun intended, I promise, but it's called moving on. Moving on. I mean, first off, I'll say I was not a fan at all of the treatment on Damon's voice. Did not like that at all. This is a string of ambiguous metaphors refer to the state of alternative music during the 90s. Instrumentation itself wasn't bad. Verse 2 is pretty clever. We're sticky eyes and sticky bones. You get no time on your own. You get a dose and a ghost. You get it coast to coast. Now you dye your hair black. Get Satan tattooed on your back. You pierce yourself with a Coke can and rub yourself in fake tan. Now you're in a band. So some clever lyrics there because this is the music and we're moving on, we're moving on. Hey, this is the music, we're moving on, moving on. No matter how low, there's always further to go. And we're moving on, moving on. They had that little in the chorus, which was really catchy. I just didn't like the treatment on his voice, but not a bad track. Now we're up to the final track, Essex Dog. Talks about the people of Essex. Damon spent most of his childhood there. He described the place as, quote, one of those burgeoning Thatcher experiments where they were building loads of small estates. This also includes a little hidden track where I read somewhere it's a hidden track and I see it says includes interlude. So I'm assuming that's what that is. Let's get to this final track, 8 minutes long. Essex Dogs with a hidden track interlude, which is only about 1:40 long. Almost a little trip hop to this. Spoken word, really. I remember thinking Murder in the Car. He's just, talking about growing up in Essex, watching dogs somersault through sprinklers on tiny lawns. I remember the graffiti. Where are your children coming at you with spray cans of paint? I remember the sunsets on the plains of cement. Verse 2, in this town, cellular phones are hot with thieves. In this town, we go to terminal pubs. It helps us sweat out those angry bits of life. In this town, the English army grind their teeth into glass. I read there's a big army base there. You'll get a kick in tonight. Those guys, maybe the army guys, were taking out their frustration with just having to sit there at that base on the locals. Here comes a panic attack. My heart stops, and then it starts. Give me a drink. I'll drink you around. I'll take you around the pole. It's cold up there. You'll catch the flu or you'll catch the city. Either way, you'll catch the flu or you'll catch the city. In the background, they're saying, wave goodbye. You're in a hearse. I think this works. If it's not the closer to a 14-track, nearly hour-long album. I think it has a lot of good stuff in it, a lot of interesting stuff. It's just way too long for an ending track, but I don't want to penalize the track for that. So now we're going to get to my favorite tracks. I'm going to go with M.O.R. That one was fantastic. I will also go with You're So Great, and I think you got to go with Beetlebum. I mean, song 2 is just iconic. I don't know that it's one of my favorites, but I mean, it's so recognizable. Now we go to the overall grade, and if you watch this channel, what I say is longer albums are tricky. 14 tracks are tricky because in that very essence, the more tracks you have, the more tracks are going to be middle of the road, no pun intended with MOR on this album, and more are going to be, maybe not quite as high a quality, but the highs are pretty darn high on this. The theme on here, I get this genre. You're going to have long instrumental build-ups and outros, but some of them were just a little bit too long. You go back in here and edit this thing down. Even if you kept the 14 songs to probably 50 minutes, you probably shave 7 minutes off of it. It'd be a more enjoyable listening experience. I would shave a few of these songs off. So for that reason, the highs are high. The lows aren't horrible by any means. There's nothing horrible on here except for I would have got rid of Theme from Retro. It wasn't horrible. It just seemed pointless to me. So I'm going to go with a 7.75 on first listen. I see why this album's held up as pretty iconic in its genre. Once again, I want to thank B-Mac for bringing this to me. There's going to be more Blur on the channel. Ironically enough, another patron has brought a top 10 that we're going to be doing very, very soon for Blur. So appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. And until next time, I will see you.